And I guess I saw the posters around on the main street over there, and I thought, oh wow, that's a pretty cool thing because I've been someone who suffered from anxiety for a long time. Just recently, I kind of had like a climax of it, I guess is a good way to say it, and figured out, okay, wow, this is an issue. Um, so I sought out help because it got that bad finally that I was like, okay, screw my pride, I'm just gonna go out and look for help. So I sought out help, and ever since then I've just been healing. I've kind of just been like looking up stuff online, kind of finding out different ways like what anxiety actually is, and like finding a way to like control it and all that. And now I'm like, I feel so much better now. And I saw this program was going on, and I was like, wow, like this is awesome. I actually genuinely really think this is an awesome program to have on campus. So I saw the signs, I went over to the table and I was like, yeah, sign me up. I'm down for an interview. I don't mind giving away my story.
It's awesome, man. That's really cool. Was it definitely really hard to ask for help?
Yes, it was hard. I'm the type of person that if I can't fix it myself, or no, I'll try and fix something by myself until I absolutely have to get help.
Yeah, I know what you mean. How did your anxiety like affect your life? Like, did it affect your relationships?
Pretty much it just, I think I had the place where my anxiety was the worst was social anxiety. So pretty much it just affected relationships in the sense that I just was anxious around people all the time, which I didn't used to be that way. And that's kind of where I was like, I kind of had that realization that I didn't used to be this way. Like, why am I so anxious around people all the time? But yeah, I used to not want to do anything really. I just sit at home, play video games all day, especially during like winter break. Yeah, I didn't do anything winter break at all. I went to visit family, but, just did the same thing over there. I just sat with my brother and played video games. At least I had my brother over there, but, it's still essentially I didn't really do much.
Yeah. What made your anxiety worse? Like, was there anything that you noticed?
Well, I know for sure it was my lack of self-confidence that really affected it a lot. Other things that made it worse were just anything that potentially could cause change in my life. Because this is a little personal information, but this is why I'm here. When I was young, my father passed away when I was 6 years old. And I wasn't really told he passed away until we went to the funeral.
Oh, wow.
In the morgue, yeah. Until I went to see him in the morgue. So that was a pretty big change in my life, and it was instant, no like warning whatsoever. So it's kind of just like ever since then, it's kind of like when I get comfortable with something, I'm scared of it changing. And kind of just those habits built up as I grew up, and that's kind of what made my anxiety so bad sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I can relate to that. How did you try and cope with it, like, before you sought help? Like, what would you do, or would you just not?
I mean, like, I tried a lot of things. I tried exercising, mostly exercising. I got involved with the student government and stuff like that, so I got more involved on campus. That helped out a lot. But during times like summer and winter break, when I didn't have those activities going on, it's kind of just didn't, like, it would just come back, But, so yeah, I exercised mostly, and then I think it was like 2 months ago, I pretty much stopped doing all those things for the most part, and that's when it started getting even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. It eventually got to the point where I purposely kept myself busy.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want my brain to start thinking and just freaking myself out, because it tends to do that. But, yeah.
Yeah. How does like anxiety make you feel, like from a very personal standpoint? Because a lot of times we hear like from medical professionals like what it is and different things, but what does it feel like?
Oh, that's a hard question. To me, I guess Like, it depends if I'm like, if I'm experiencing social anxiety, it's just like general, like my heartbeat just goes up a little bit higher. I just feel tense around people, and words just don't really come out. I can't really articulate them as well. But just general anxiety when I'm on my own, it's just, my mind just goes off on many different scenarios and many different things that probably will never happen, and I shouldn't be worrying about them, but it goes ahead and does it anyways, so.
Yeah. So would you say that it affects your relationships with other people and your ability to communicate with them?
Yes,
Effectively?
definitely. There was a point where I stopped being able to kind of connect with other people.
Mm-hmm.
But now, like, I've been working on it and kind of just reteaching myself that it's okay to trust people, it's okay to be, like, you know, silly with people, it's okay to just embarrass yourself with people, like, those aren't bad things. And my anxiety pretty much told me that, no, don't do any of that stuff, like, that's bad, you shouldn't be doing that. So that's kind of just, once I started healing, I kind of got rid of that mindset.
That's awesome. So what was, you said like, you just stopped doing like exercising and getting involved, like what, was that like the turning point for you? Like what made it so bad? Like,
I guess what made me like think that it was time to get help.
yeah.
For me, so I smoke pot. I smoke pot quite regularly.
Okay.
And me and my roommates, we just smoke it at night once we're done with all of our responsibilities during the day. It's kind of just to go to sleep. But at first, like the pot, it was fine, it was relaxing and everything. But then it got to the point where my anxiety got so bad and I smoked, and it would just make my anxiety worse. And I started having panic attacks at night, and I've never had panic attacks before.
Mm-hmm.
So once I started having those panic attacks, I think I had 2 panic attacks in 2 days. And at that point, I was like, yeah, no, I need to change this. Like, this sucks.
Yeah.
I hate panic attacks. They're just the worst feeling ever.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So what did you do to ask for help? Like, what resources did you use, or?
Okay. So I guess the best resource I had was honestly my best friend and my roommate. And I mean, I lived with her and her boyfriend, and they were always right there, you know. I just never wanted to open up to them about this issue, even though I've been friends with like my best friend since I started college. But for some reason, I just didn't want to really open up to anyone about this. So finally, once I actually started opening up to her, she like encouraged counseling. So I was like, okay, you know, I'll try it. So I went to a counselor, kind of gave the counselor my story. He kind of asked me all these like questions that kind of made me think about the situation, and it really helped a lot because it made me realize a lot of what I'm doing is I'm just forcing it upon myself in a way. So yeah, I think counseling was a great help. My best friend was definitely a great help. And eventually I just started opening up to just different people who aren't those two. And I've noticed the more I open up about it, the easier it gets. Because if people know about it, then I'm just like, okay, well, at least they know. You know, I don't have to worry about like looking like a weirdo, you know, just sitting there silent, musing in my head while everyone else is talking around me and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, that's awesome. So were you surprised at all about how your roommates reacted? Or, that's very, with anxiety, you're anxious about what they're gonna say, what they're gonna think. Like, how did that go?
I was surprised because she took it a lot better than I thought she would.
Mm-hmm.
I had overplayed it in my head. I was like, oh, she's probably gonna think I'm weird, you know? And it's like, she's like, dude, I'm your best friend. Like, this is what I'm here for, you know? And I was like, I don't know why. It's just the anxiety didn't let me see that. It's like, you know, these people are here to care for me, and I'm not letting them do it. But yeah, I was definitely surprised at how well she took it and everything. And once I started telling other people about it, like, they all were just like, oh, yeah, you know, it, we're here for you, but, you know, it's not like it's the end of the world. You're still an amazing guy, you know. People, like, I'm in leadership for Mecha. It's a Latina-based organization here on campus. And one of my friends, who is part of the leadership team as well, he kept like pushing me to get up and like do it and like take on like the primary leadership position, because he was like, you're a good leader. I don't understand why you're just like not wanting to do any of this. Like, you're good at this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was just my lack of self-confidence, I guess, that anxiety brought to me as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just held you back from doing what you loved.
Mm-hmm.
And from being, do you feel like it held you back from being like who you are, like naturally?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, because like now, I mean, I'm super active again. I go to the gym 3 times a week. I have meetings with the organization I'm a part of like 2 times a week. Super talkative. I'm building the team up, you know. And it's like, I don't know why it took me so long to return to this, because it's just always been how I've been. I'm always just a really charismatic, talkative guy. It's nice to finally be able to be like that again, you know?
Yeah. Freeing? Is it freeing for you?
Yes, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
It's, yeah, once I reminded myself that it's okay to not be okay, at that point I was like, yeah, no, like, okay, let's enjoy life. Let's not just sit back and hope it gets better, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give to somebody who is struggling with anxiety?
I guess first it'd be an issue of finding what is the cause of it, which can be really hard sometimes. But even if you can't figure out what the cause of it is, just talk to people about it. That's just talking to people it's healing. It really is. And just talk to people about it, and as hopeless as it may get, just keep it up. I mean, it's hard, it's really hard, but if you just sit back and let the gloom take over your life, you're never gonna get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one thing. I'm young, you know. I'm glad I was able to reverse this and kind of just control it. I mean, I'm sure, like, people have relapses all the time, but at the very least, I'll be able to know how to control those relapses in the future, now that I've kind of figured it out as I'm young.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give to somebody, like your friends and your roommates who you were talking to about it, like, who aren't quite sure how to approach their friend or not quite sure what to say? What advice would you give to them?
I guess it depends on the person.
Yeah.
Because like for me, I don't really approach people about my issues unless I feel like I absolutely have to.
Yeah.
And my friends kind of, I think they know that about me, so they kind of waited for me until I was ready. So I guess it's just know your friend, like pick up their habits. If they're doing something that they don't usually do, like just watch them, and kind of just, I don't know, I guess everyone's ready when they want to be ready to share this type of stuff. It's kind of hard for someone who is watching someone with a mental illness goes through that process. Like, I can only imagine how hard it'd be to try and approach that person, because you can't get overly personal. You can't ask like certain questions, or else you'll probably make them uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's just, honestly, it's just be there for them. That's the best advice I can give to someone who has friends like that. It's just be there for them, be a friend, help them out.
Nice. You talked about your counseling sessions, and a lot of people are kind of weary of counselors. They think maybe like that makes me feel weak or something. How did you feel that way?
Yeah, I mean, I've never been a fan of counseling. I always kind of, you know, society has this stereotype that once you go to therapy, like, that's because you're crazy. Like, that's kind of just how it's been set up in society. So that's why I never really wanted to go to counseling. I mean, but once I was there and everything and talking to the guy, I was like, this is literally just talking to someone. Like, I don't understand why I was so afraid of it. I'm just literally just talking to someone about how I feel. It's not bad. I love it. It's actually really nice. I only went to one counseling session, but off of that one counseling session was enough for me to kind of figure out what I'm doing wrong and kind of just figure out how I can fix it.
Mm-hmm. A lot of times, people in general, like for me with anxiety, it felt like you just were stuck and trapped. Like, was it that way for you? And
Yeah, kind of just felt trapped. Yeah, like sometimes I felt like there was just nothing I could do about it, I guess.
mm-hmm.
And I eventually started feeling a little numb, like my emotions started to get numb too. Which is actually a really scary thought that I went through that. But, yeah, I don't know, it's hard to explain like that feeling of like feeling just trapped or just like you can't really do anything. I've definitely felt it before.
Mm-hmm.
But that thankfully wasn't like a majority of my anxiety.
Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. What stigma, like, against your mental illness have you noticed and experienced?
So I know, like, for general anxiety, I guess one of the reasons why I didn't want to get help with anxiety the most is because people kind of assume that's a female issue. Because kind of just like there's a stereotype that females, you know, they overthink things and kind of just play it through their head a lot, and males are just like, that's a problem for another day, you know. So when I started having anxiety and kind of just overthinking things and going through that stuff, I was kind of just sitting there like, wait, no, I'm a guy, I shouldn't be feeling this way. I think that's what made it the hardest. That was probably the hardest part of it. But other stigmas, just in general, just, you know, people just assume just because you're all gloomy and stuff, it's something that's temporary and you should just get up and just live your life. It's not that simple for some people, you know. And yeah, just the stigma of it's all in your head, which, I mean, it is all in your head when you think about it. But at the same time, unless you properly know how to fix it, you can't really just get up, go to school, go to work, and pretend it's all okay. Like, that just makes it worse.
Yeah. What should people know about anxiety? What do you think that most people don't know that you wish they did?
Well, I guess one thing that I learned online from watching a video that I actually found kind of fascinating is anxiety is actually your mind constantly activating your adrenaline protocol. So pretty much, like for males specifically, because males, when they get anxious, they get the fight or flight response. And what anxiety does is it's constantly triggering that fight or flight response, which is really bad for your heart and your mind because you're constantly pumping adrenaline through your body. So that was definitely something that surprised me about anxiety, and I think that was one of the points that I was like, wait, if I keep this up, I'm gonna have a heart attack when I'm like 50 years old. Like, no, like, you know, I should change that. So I think that's one of the biggest things about anxiety that fascinated me, and I think that fascinates some other people as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I think we kind of talked about this, but is there any other advice you want to give to anybody, or maybe give to yourself you wish you would have in the past?
To myself, oh, I don't know. There is one point I want to talk about, kind of. It's kind of related to that. I got to the point where my mind was so active and everything that when I was talking to people, I'd listen to their conversation for like 5 seconds, and then they'd say something, and I start thinking about that one thing they said, and then try and come back to the conversation like when they were done, and they'd just look at me like waiting for a response. And I'm just like, oh shit, I didn't even listen to anything you just said. It actually kind of made me feel like an asshole sometimes, but I guess it's just like a piece of advice if like anyone suffers through that is just if you catch yourself kind of drifting off into a side thought, just try and push it away and just pay attention to that person, because that's the best thing you can do for yourself, is pay attention to what that person's saying, because that way, one, you convince yourself that you care about what that person's saying, and two, they also feel the same way. So like me personally, I enjoy seeing other people smile. Like if I can make someone else smile, like that makes my day. So it's like when I'm not paying attention to what they're saying and they know it, it's kind of just like I didn't mean to do that, but you know, I can't help it. So I guess it's trying to just focus on one thing at a time. It's probably the best way I could put it.
Yeah, kind of like living in what's happening right now, in the moment.
Yeah, no. One of the issues I had was I'd worry about things that I shouldn't be worrying about. Well, I mean, like, just worrying about things that aren't really in my control.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I spent a lot of time thinking about, like, world issues that I could never fix by myself. But for some reason, I just had the answer, and I'm like, oh, I can fix this, you know, and I just worry about it and overthink things about things I shouldn't even be thinking about. So eventually, once I stopped, like, letting my mind wander off and doing stuff like that and just focusing on what's in front of me, I think that's probably when I started regaining my ability to have conversations and stuff like that, too.
Mm-hmm. There's kind of a stereotype of people, like you said, females with anxiety, and people like with depression are just like wearing dark clothes and dark, like very like emo looking. What do you have any comments on that?
I definitely believe that, you know, those are just stereotypes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people like wearing dark clothes and emo clothing. I mean, if that's what they want to do. I mean, I'm sure, like, I don't want to, what's it called, categorize a group of people, but I'm sure there is some mental illness within those people going on.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely don't think it's okay to just point at someone and be like, oh, you're wearing dark clothes, like you're messed up in the head. Like that's not okay, because what if that person wants to heal? Like, when are they supposed to heal if people are constantly downing them? Like, oh, I have a CJ example for this. It's like someone.
What's CJ?
Criminal justice.
Okay.
It's like someone who gets released from jail, and they are a convicted sexual assault felon. And this could very well mean it was a guy at a party who had sex with an underage girl, like as simple as that. And they label him as a sexual offender for the rest of their life. And people, like, they put him on a list, and police officers will tell the neighbors, hey, a sexual offender is living right next to you. Like, how is that person supposed to reintegrate into society when everyone is judging them constantly? And I guess that's the same example I'd have for like someone who wears dark clothes and stuff like that. It's like, why are you constantly judging that person? Like, what if they want to change? Like, or what if this is just how they are, you know? Like, you shouldn't be judging someone for how they dress up.
Yeah. Do you think that anybody could have anxiety, do you think? Or, like you said, most people think it's just a female issue.
I think anxiety is just natural for humans. And animals too. I think any intelligent species can have anxiety. The issue is whether or not you let anxiety get bad, I guess. Because like I said before, anxiety triggers your fight or flight response, and that's good. Like humans, they need that. That's how we survive in the wild, you know. And actually, I was researching on this. The reason why people get so much anxiety is because nowadays we have so much information going around that we learn so much, and it's harder for the human brain to process it. And that's what causes people to worry about things like that, plus stress, plus all these responsibilities that people have, just causes constant worries in their head.
What's the difference between stress and anxiety? Like, would you say?
Okay, so, oh, it's a hard one, you know, it's hard to kind of figure that out. I guess stress is more related to like things you have to do. So like when you have a bunch of homework or a big work project coming up, you know, like you're stressing about that stuff. Like I have to get this done, otherwise blank consequences will happen. While anxiety is more like, just worrying about those consequences. But while stress is relative to just things you have to get done, anxiety expands more into relationships and just everyday life, just constantly worrying about consequences.
Do you feel like if there was a club on campus or something where we could talk about these issues, do you feel like that would really help? I mean,
Yes, yeah, for sure. I think if there was a support group out there for mental illnesses, especially on campus, like a club or an organization, I think that'd be a great help. Especially if we have plenty of people like tabling for it and kind of just going out and showing people like, hey, there are people like you, like we are here, you know, there's a lot of us here. I feel like that would definitely help out.